Hi there. Hey, my name is Rebecca. I recently finished a 7-day water fast, and I kind of was just so blown away by everything that happened to me, to my body, during that time that I kind of just want to talk about it. And so I'm talking about it on the internet so that maybe someone else can be helped, but I really just selfishly want to talk about it. And I've probably talked all my friends' ears off about it already, so I'm taking advantage of the World Wide Web. Yeah, so I started a 7-day water fast. It was a little bit impulsive, but I categorize my decisions as impulsive sometimes when I like research them for like a year and I know everything about it and I know why I want to do it, and then in a moment I decide to finally pull the trigger, and that's what I call impulse. So realistically, it wasn't that impulsive. I had been researching fasting and the effects of autophagy, which was one of my main goals for fasting, for probably over a year, but it's been a long time that I've been researching these things. I've really wanted to experience them, and yeah, essentially just one day a few weeks ago, I decided that I'm gonna start fasting today and see what happens. So my goals really with the fast was, one, I really wanted to experience autophagy. I've been intermittent fasting for about 5 years. I typically fast 16 hours a day. I have some digestive issues that were caused by I had a bowel resection 10 years ago, so I've been on this like decade-long journey to figure out how to feed my body well, because I don't process fiber well. I have some other issues. I have scar tissue in there, so whatever. There's a lot of complications there. But point being, I've been on a decade-long like digestive health journey, if you will, to figure out what is actually nutritious and what's actually good for my body. And so I've gone through so many different iterations of diets and tips and tricks, and so I mean, realistically, I could probably talk about them for the rest of my life. I mean, from one drastic end, I started more plant-based, almost vegan, but not completely vegan, majority plant-based for a very, very, very long time, and I have now, over the past 10 years, I've transitioned into being primarily carnivore. I would call myself a hyper-carnivore because I still allow some very, very, very limited not animal-based products, but I'm primarily carnivore now. I've experienced significantly more healthy digestion, healthy mood stabilization, weight management, like all of the good things have come since I've transitioned to carnivore. So I kind of super believe in carnivore, but I'm not against plants. I just know my body is significantly better on carnivore. Anyway, that's a tangent. My goals for this fast were autophagy. I had been researching it a long time, like I said, because I've been intermittent fasting for a few years, and so it's come up in conversation. My dad actually introduced me to autophagy a couple years ago, and it piqued my interest, but because I didn't understand it completely, and it was just a lot of new information, I didn't dive into it immediately. But it is a really, really fascinating process, and if you don't know anything about autophagy, I would super highly recommend go look up a scientific description of autophagy, because I would absolutely not do it justice. But it's a very, very necessary process that happens in your cells, where your cells are able to recycle and clean themselves out, but it only happens when your cells are not feeding on fresh fuel. Autophagy actually means self-eating, and so what's actually happening is that your cells are essentially feeding on themselves, kind of. It's your body eating itself, which sounds bad, but it's actually really, really, really good, because when it's eating itself, it is cleaning out old cells and replacing them with new, fresh cells, which is super, super, super necessary. And because we live in this world of abundance, we rarely actually allow ourselves to do that. And so that's why a lot of people see a lot of like skin and gut benefits when they start intermittent fasting, because they allow their body to experience a tiny bit of autophagy, and their bodies are able to clean out old, dead, gross cells. When, especially in our American culture right now, or like Western culture, we really just don't allow our bodies to do that on a regular basis, because we just live in this world of abundance and we're constantly eating, which is super unnecessary and definitely not a part of our ancestral history. You know, obviously, like, our ancestors lived very differently, and our bodies evolved to go through sometimes of, sorry, a call is coming in. Sometimes like a season of abundance, which is probably around harvest time, and then a season of scarcity, which would probably be through winter. That's why we store fat the way that we do. When we overeat in a time of abundance, our bodies are literally preparing for a time of scarcity, so we hold on to fat, which is super rad, I think, that our bodies are prepared for something like that. But anyway, so that's why we get fat stores, holding on to our bodies in different places. And then, well, now in our current culture, well, there isn't really a time to burn through those fat stores. We don't allow ourselves the time to burn through those fat stores, because realistically, we're never going to go through a time of scarcity. We have, I mean, you know, worst case scenario, even if you're hard on your luck, we have the dollar menu at most fast food restaurants. So, like, well, most of us are reasonably accessible to food all the time, which is just, I guess, not what our bodies are made for. It's pretty rad that our bodies, are made for fasting, which we never do. So, anyway, so that is when autophagy happens, is when your body kind of goes into a starvation mode, and instead of burning fresh fuel that's coming in the form of food that we're eating, it starts burning its own fat stores that it's been working on storing just in case you go through a time of scarcity. And so I think that's why people experience so many benefits with intermittent fasting, but real autophagy doesn't really like super kick into gear, at least as this is what I've read. I'm super not a scientist, so again, go watch another video by an actual educator. This is literally just what I've learned and read on articles and videos over the past couple years. But I think autophagy really kicks into gear after like 48 to 72 hours ish. So for me, as I was like experiencing a little bit of benefits, like specifically like my skin super cleared up, especially when I went carnivore, but also when I started intermittent fasting, it started clearing up. It was a lot more easier to manage, and I had very bad acne before. I got rid of it with more than just dietary restrictions. I took meds for a little while. I don't anymore, thank God, but now I do manage it with my diet, or what I intake into my body. Anyway, so since autophagy doesn't really start until 48 to 72 hours, I'd never really felt like I was getting the full benefits of like real deep, like, powerful autophagy, and that's just something I really wanted to experience. So, oh, and then, yeah, okay, so my two goals essentially for this fast in particular was I really wanted to burn through some of my fat stores. I wasn't like significantly overweight, but I had felt like pockets on my body that I had started retaining fat in a way that I wasn't used to, didn't like. It was probably just because I was overeating, and I do work out very regularly, but I don't know, I was probably just overeating, because I do eat carnivore, so I eat very high fat, very high calorie, and my body had gotten super used to that, so there's just potential that I started retaining fat for some reason. I also had incorporated some kind of like iffy things, like if I got a sweet tooth, I would eat a little bit of something sweetened with monk fruit, so my body was probably retaining a lot of water as well. Anyway, point being, I was retaining a little bit more weight, more fat stores than I liked, and so I wanted to try to burn through some of those. And then I also primarily really just wanted to experience autophagy, or like the effects of autophagy, which both happened. It was kind of incredible, and so that's what I wanted to like talk about. I'm already 10 minutes in, and I wanted to make this super quick. But so I'll just run through as quickly as I can all of the like amazing cool things that happened. And I only did this for 7 days. Some people do this for like 40 days and they'll go to a center, which is incredible. But there's 2 centers that I know of. One somewhere in the United States. Oh, I don't remember where it is. And then the other center is split into 2, so technically 3. They're in Germany and Spain. And I did a lot of research on fasting through these 2 centers because they've done years and years and years and years of research on water fasting specifically, and the benefits on autophagy and all of these different things. They know way more than me. And so I guess I'll link those below if I'll find them and link them so you guys can do your own research, because I think that's super, super important. So yeah, let me just run through like all the cool, amazing things that happened. So I do know that I had been retaining a lot of water weight, because literally in the first like 48 hours of this fast, I lost over 10 pounds, which was clearly a water weight. Maybe a pound of fat or something, but that was very clearly water weight. And I could feel that before I started. My skin was kind of tight, like even my fingers and my toes were kind of like bloated and tight feeling. So I definitely know that I was retaining a lot of water. I do think that's because I had incorporated some like monk fruit and stuff like that into my diet, and I think that just makes you retain a lot of water. And so I know that was true. I lost 10 pounds within the first like 24 to 48 hours. It was stupid weird. I was like shocked. And then over the rest of the 7 days in total, including those 10 pounds, I lost about 15 to 16 pounds, which was like kind of mind boggling. My body didn't look a super ton different. Like realistically, you know, I was pretty bloated, not just in my tummy area, but like in my arms and legs and toes and stuff. So I definitely looked more normal. I probably looked more comfortable because I wasn't like tight. But you know, yeah, so I probably lost like 5 pounds of fat or something like that, which is pretty rad for a week of time. And I do think it did what I wanted in burning through a little bit of my extra fat stores. So that was rad. But really the things that I was like super blown away by were more so the effects of autophagy, of like actually experiencing every cell in my body renewing itself and recycling the old parts, and essentially just like refreshing my whole biological self. Super, super, super rad. I guess the most obvious thing was like probably on like day 5, and I hadn't been touching my face a whole lot up until that point, but at some point, it was around day 5, I realized I like couldn't stop touching my face because my skin was so soft. Like it literally felt like a baby's bum. It was very cool. That's one of the things that I really, really wanted to experience. So yeah, my skin got super clear and super soft. And I assume that is an effect of autophagy, in that it was all my skin cells were recycling and renewing and becoming fresh baby skin cells. Skin, I mean, probably the biggest one that everybody talks about is like your energy. Like when you're fasting, like day 1 through 3, super tired. Well, day 1 and 2, super tired. Day 3, mostly just hungry. Still a little bit tired, but like my mind was starting to clear up. But after day 4, or after day 3, so starting on day 4, man, I like, even just waking up, I just woke up with energy, like pure clear energy. It felt like my brain was like all of a sudden firing like it should, like it's supposed to all the time. And so I felt like I was like, whoa, I've been like abusing my body with whatever like things I've been putting in it, because something had cleared out and something had changed. Something had kicked into gear, which I assume is my body running on a significantly higher level of ketones. So, because your brain loves ketones, they get through your blood-brain barrier way faster, and so your energy is going to run purer. Your mind clarity is going to be like through the roof, which both I experienced heavily. Specifically after day 3, so starting on day 4, was like my energy was through the roof all the time. I very easily could work out with a little bit of fatigue in my legs. Like I didn't feel quite as strong, but like my muscles worked just fine, and I still ran and walked and lifted weights. So I do pull-ups occasionally, and I didn't really do those, but I didn't really try, so I don't know if it would have been hard or not. I just didn't want to do them because my arms felt kind of weak. But realistically, I could still work out. I worked out nearly every day while I was fasting. The first couple days I did not. I basically just laid in bed for the first 2 days because I was very tired, which I think was just a buildup of lack of sleep that came out when I stopped eating. Anyway, so my energy was incredible. I think after day 4, my sleep got really weird in the way that I had so much energy that I didn't need to sleep. Like, I would literally lay down to go to bed at my normal time, or like maybe an hour later, and I would just be like wired. Like, I'm ready to go do yard work, or I don't know, I'm ready to go do something physical. Like, I have so much energy. So I would usually end up reading or drawing, or like I would do something. And I would end up staying up for like 3 or 4 more hours, which is like crazy because I sleep. Like, I go to bed at the same time, I wake up at the same time, and I sleep. Now for that week, I was like, or for the second half of that week, I was sleeping probably, which sounds terrible, I was probably sleeping 3 to 4.5 hours a night. Ooh, which sounds awful. Probably not 3, probably closer to 4.5-ish hours every night. Maybe even a little bit more. I'm exaggerating. But I usually sleep 8 to 9 hours. And so it was a significant difference of what I actually felt like my body needed. And on all those days, I still woke up with a ton of energy in the morning. So that was weird. What else? My skin felt amazing. I had a ton of energy. I slept weird. My mind was super clear and focused. Oh, my eyesight. For goodness sakes, that was super, super weird. Like, at some point, my eyes were just like sharp. I usually wear like reading glasses when I'm working, and I still wore them a little bit while I was fasting, but it was like my eyes were just super sharp and clear. That was super rad. I can't tell you why that is. I'll have to do more research, and maybe I'll come back and talk about that later. I assume it's an effect of autophagy, of your body in being starvation mode and all of the things cranking up onto its highest level. Okay, that's great. Whatever it was, my eyesight was amazing. And as soon as I started eating again, they went a little bit fuzzy. Super, super, super weird. I'll have to research that a little bit more. My mood was super stable, and not even just stable. Like, it wasn't like I was just a zombie. Like, I was stable and good. Like, I felt a little bit maybe like higher, like like on a higher plane of mood most of the time. So that was awesome. And I guess maybe some negative effects. I got really cold after a couple days. I slept with like socks on, which I normally don't do. Also, though, I live in Eastern Tennessee, and during that time, it like the temperature also kind of dropped, not a ton, but it did drop a little bit. So I think there was a combo of like the weather got suddenly colder, and I was fasting, so my body was like feeling a little bit colder. I don't know if that's normal or not. I've heard other people say that they got cold during fasting, and then I've heard other people say that when they stay super active during their fast, like if they're walking in the morning and working out, they don't get as cold. So I don't know. I just know that I did experience, like, specifically my extremities, like my fingers and my toes, like, were pretty cold. And then I was like constantly wearing a sweatshirt, even in I live in an RV, so even in the RV, when I have like the heat on and it's like pretty warm in here, I was still kind of like bundling up. So that was one negative effect, I guess. Poo. Day 4, I thought I was done like pooing, because obviously you're not eating. So at some point I thought I was gonna stop pooing. No such happening. Day 4, and I apologize, you can skip over the poo part if you want to, but I'm gonna talk about poo because it's important. Yeah, so I passed solids the first couple days, and then day 4 in the morning, I woke up with some super vivacious liquid poo, which super surprised me because I thought I was done processing everything. Apparently not. I don't know what all that was. I'm hoping and assuming it was just toxins that my body was flushing out, and probably minerals, because I tracked my electrolytes super carefully. So I was like taking electrolytes to a certain level every day to make sure that I had good energy and was staying hydrated the way I needed to be. But so I could have been just like a buildup of minerals. But anyway, woke up with liquid poo for day 4, and then I had a tiny bit of liquid poo every single day through the rest of the fast. Again, Don't know if that's normal. Talk to a doctor. I'll do more research as well. But yeah, super liquid poo. If you're gonna do something like this, don't trust your farts. If you have to fart, go sit on a toilet before you do it, because everything coming out of your butt is pure liquid. Which brings me to electrolytes, if I'm talking about pooing minerals. I did track my electrolytes really, really carefully. I made sure I got 4,700 milligrams of potassium every day, and I didn't do the electrolyte packets like everybody else does. I hate those. I just don't like them. So I don't have it right here, but I use no salt for potassium. So I literally just, I measure I think it's each serving is a quarter teaspoon. And so I just put it in my water and I drink it all day long, and I just track until I hit 4,700-ish milligrams, like at least 4,000 milligrams, but usually I'll go up to 4,700 because that's just when my body feels the best. I've been making sure I get 4,700 milligrams of potassium for a few years now, because I found out at some point that it's like the magic cure for all of the weird ailments I was having, like cramping. I had a little eye twitch that was weird. I literally had heart palpitations and dizziness. As soon as I made sure I was getting enough potassium every day, all of that went away. So if you have any of those symptoms, cramping, heart palpitations, eye twitches, crank up your potassium, because I assure you, you are not getting 4,700 milligrams every day, and that is probably what you should be having. Again, go talk to your doctor. I've been experimenting for a decade, and so I'm figuring out, I don't have it figured out, but I am constantly figuring out what works best for me, and these are just my discoveries up to this point. There will be significantly more over the next however many years I'm alive. But so yeah, 4,700 milligrams of potassium. I shot for around 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams of sodium, because that's what people said was good. But at some point, I didn't feel great about it. So at some point, I started kind of less tracking my sodium and more intuitively taking sodium. And when I say taking sodium, I usually would just like munch on some salt flakes. I would measure them very carefully. Sometimes I would just stick my finger in, like I would measure out a quarter teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt, and then I would just like dip my finger in it until it was gone, and I would track what I like intook. So I still tracked what I was eating with sodium, but I didn't shoot for 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams. I would, like, if I got tired or if my brain started feeling kind of weird, I would just take a little bit of sodium and I would feel better, and I would track what I took, and then that's what I took. So I did sodium a little bit more intuitively. And then magnesium I also took. Typically I took it in capsule form twice a day. I took 2 different kinds. One that's more like absorbed by your intestines in the morning, and then one that's more absorbed by your muscles absorbed by your intestines in the morning, muscles in the evening. And I would basically take that every 12 hours, like in capsule form. So I was probably getting somewhere between like 300 to 500 milligrams of magnesium every day. So yeah, I tracked electrolytes very carefully, which I do think was very, very helpful in sustaining myself through the fast. My hunger went away completely after day 3, which was a very weird experience, because I would kind of feel hunger, but not in the way that like my tummy is growling and I'm like cranky and I want food. It was more so out of like boredom and habit, where it was like, well, I love cooking food. I make myself food kind of constantly. I am a snacker, so I do snack a lot. I make myself snacks because I'm carnivore, so it's hard to find like actual carnivore snacks. So I make myself beef chips and things like that. But I love doing it, and I love experimenting with things and trying new recipes, and so I do cook a lot. And to have all that time back from not cooking definitely produced a little bit of boredom and like habit time that I didn't know exactly what to do with. And so that's like the hunger I felt. So it wasn't really like biological hunger. It was like I think it was just mostly boredom. And so with those things, filled it with a lot of stuff. I'd say, one, you really have to have a goal. You have to believe in your goal while you're doing the thing. But then also, like, there are a lot of books that I've wanted to read that I just haven't had time for. And so I ended up doing a lot of reading, which was awesome. I also work, probably 50 hours a week. And so During the week, I did it 7 days, so I went over a weekend as well. But during the week, I was working a lot. That super, super helped. I kept a ton of flavored fizzy water on hand. Some people say that's a no-no for water fasting. I say do whatever helps you, like, do whatever helps you. So I had a ton of fizzy water. I drank a ton of tea. I know specifically Earl Grey because of the bergamot in it, I believe, and any kind of coffee. So I drank decaf a couple times, but specifically green tea and Earl Grey tea help push your body into autophagy. So I did drink some Earl Grey and green tea. When I started having my energy spikes, I kind of felt weird about having caffeine, so I kind of cut that a little bit more, and I had more herbal teas all the time. The point being, I just drank tea all the time and fizzy water all the time, and that helped when I wanted that, like, you know, it's like smoking, like you have to smoking or snacking, any kind of like addiction. I wanted something to do with my hands and like ingest something, so that's typically what I leaned on for those things. And then with my time, I did fill it with mostly work and reading, or going for a walk, which was amazing because walking feels so good. What else? Oh, I tracked my ketones and my blood sugar levels pretty strictly, mostly because I was curious. There was one night, I think it was the end of day 2, where I was starting to feel, I definitely felt the effects of low blood sugar. I was really weak, feeling kind of shaky, a little bit like dizzy, and I got really nervous. I was about to call off the fast because I thought this is so bad, but then I was telling myself, like, no, I know this is going to be the worst part. I just need to push through this. But I do need to take care of myself. And so I tested my ketones and my blood sugar. My blood sugar was super, super, super low. And so I actually just like chewed a couple sticks of gum and everything went away and I felt great. And then the next morning I woke up and I felt okay. So, yeah, I don't know about gum chewing. I don't know because gum does contain calories, so I don't know if that interrupts your autophagy or not, but it made me feel better in the moment, so I did it. I don't think I would chew gum all the time again, although it was like helpful for that like sensation, like the eating sensation and keeping your breath fresh, because when you're fasting your breath gets rank. I think it's some sort of digestive enzyme effect. Something is happening there. Again, go ask a doctor or find a video on YouTube, but your breath gets rank when you're fasting. So I brush my teeth a lot. But anyway, so there was that one night that I got really, really low blood sugar, and then my blood sugar did not necessarily go up after that. It stayed very low because you're fasting, but I didn't feel the effects of low blood sugar. Like, I definitely didn't feel weak or dizzy or anything like that, which you should with, you know, low blood sugar or nauseous or whatever. I felt very, very, very good, and I had very low blood sugar. So I don't know what to do with that. Again, not a doctor, but find somebody who can answer those questions if you want them answered. I do think that's probably all the important information that I wanted to share. Overall, super amazing. And I am a super believer in fasting. I think everybody should do it occasionally. Maybe not 7 days, maybe 3 days, although 3 days are the worst part. So I would definitely push past 3 days, maybe go 5 days, because 5 days you're really going to feel the effects of good things and cell renewal happening in your body. 3 days, you will a little bit, but you'll mostly be miserable and you'll never want to do it again. If you can push past the miserable part and get into the like euphoric part of fasting and autophagy, then at least you'll want to do it again later. Because like for me, I went 7 days. Somehow it feels a little bit weird to be able to just like pull off 7 days, but man, as soon as I was done, I was like raring to start again. I knew I needed to refeed, and I mean, mostly when I did start eating again, I wasn't super hungry. Like I said, most of my hunger went away, but I was bored, and eating is such a social, wonderful experience. And I knew that specifically the weekend that I stopped fasting, I was hanging out with a bunch of friends and going to like a festival, like a music festival. So I really wanted, I don't know, there was just part of like eating food with your friends that feels good and community oriented. So I did want to start eating again. But my body definitely didn't feel like it needed to at that point in the fast. I could have gone significantly longer than 7 days. And maybe I should have. I don't know. But I will definitely be trying it again. I'll be definitely be doing it again. Because, yeah, it was super beneficial, super incredible. I'm going to do a little bit of research on how often I can fast, how often people should fast, and like I have been for the past decade, I'm going to experiment with my body and find out what works best, which I highly recommend everyone else do as well. So that's all. If you have any questions, please ask me, because I love talking about this stuff and I want to talk about it with everyone in the world. As I find out more, I think I'm going to start talking about it more. So that's rad. And we nailed it at 30 minutes. Bye.